The jungle was quiet in that strange, anticipatory way that never lasts. Even the insects seemed to hush as the sun sank behind the jagged hills of Luzon. We were stationed just north of Subic Bay, surrounded by the skeletal remnants of old U.S. military infrastructure, vines creeping over rusted steel and cracked runways. It was 7:12 p.m. when Dr. Elias Navarro's thermal camera, our most expensive piece of tracking equipment, began to glitch. At first, we thought it was heat distortion from the forest canopy. Then, we realized it was something in the air, something big. It soared out of the treetops like a shadow made solid, blotting out the last hues of orange and pink in the sky. Its wings stretched far wider than any known flying fox. I instinctively raised my arms, and even then, it would have dwarfed the span. The bat's fur was unlike anything we had seen gleaming in the twilight like molten rust, an uncanny red that flickered in the dying light. When it extended its wings fully, the sound was so loud and sudden it startled us like canvas sails cracking open in a violent gust. We had come expecting to study golden-crowned flying foxes, already the world's largest bat. But this was something else. As it circled above, silhouetted against the last gradient of dusk, the cameras picked up movement jittery, almost stuttering us if even the sensors couldn't quite follow its speed or size. Every 9 seconds, we got clips short, jarring bursts of the giant bat banking, twisting, diving, each more disorienting than the last. Navarro was the first to grab a laser rangefinder and aim it. I steadied his arm as he clicked through the data. What came back shouldn't have been possible. Wingspan: 6.3 feet, far beyond the 5.5-foot maximum for golden-crowned bats. Weight: 3.2 pounds, nearly double the norm. Claw length: 1.4 inches, sharp enough to pierce through coconut husks or tear flesh. "It's not just a mutation," Navarro said, almost whispering. "This is a new phenotype. Maybe even a subspecies." Before we could process the implications, it turned. Mid-air, with an agility that contradicted its mass, it locked onto us. I remember the way its eyes caught the light, reflective like a predator's, like something that didn't fear us. And then it came. At exactly 7:24 p.m., the giant bat dove straight from 200 feet above, wings tucked just enough to slice through the air at terrifying speed. The anemometer recorded 45 miles per hour. It struck our tripod-mounted night vision Riga 20-0 custom job from a defense contractor with such force it collapsed sideways, shattering one of the lenses and leaving 3 jagged claw marks deep in the aluminum housing. One of the claws had punctured the heat shield. We were lucky no one stood in its path. We retreated into the camp container and slammed the door. The bat circled once more, 9 seconds again, and disappeared into the canopy. But the true horror didn't come until we reviewed the audio logs. Amid the high-frequency screeches, one layer stood out low, almost sub-audible. With spectral analysis, we isolated an infrasonic pulse at 11 Hz. That frequency has been studied before, known to induce nausea, anxiety, and in extreme cases, hallucinations. It wasn't just attacking us physically, it was broadcasting a neurological weapon. For the next few days, none of us could sleep properly. Navarro reported night sweats and nausea. I experienced disorientation. Others developed tension headaches, as if some residual signal still echoed in our nervous systems. And yet, like clockwork, every 9 seconds during playback, the image of that massive, rust-colored bat appeared in our footage, always from a slightly different angle, as if it was circling still. By the time we received the distress call from a group of rangers just south of our position, none of their drones had gone down under hostile aerial interference, we knew it wasn't a one-time encounter. The creature had returned. Or perhaps it had never left. And worse. There may be more. We didn't wait to find out. But fate had different plans. Just 2 days later, during a stormy night thick with monsoon humidity, we found the body. The storm had knocked out most of our sensors that night. Rain hammered the canopy with a force that turned every leaf into a drumhead. But sometime around 3:00 a.m., one of the local rangers spotted a dark shape tangled in the bamboo thickets near the old comms tower. He thought it was a crashed drone at first, until he saw the wing. It was torn, shredded along the fibrous veins like wet paper, one end still twitching. The body lay crumpled below, twisted unnaturally, its chest barely rising. Power lines above had snapped under tension, a thick coil now dangling beside the scene. The creature must have collided mid-flight. Electricity had done what nothing else could, brought down the monster. We approached with caution, our lights flickering under the strain of backup batteries. The smell hit us: first ozone, scorched fur, and something else. Something primal. Even as it lay dying, the bat was colossal. Its wingwat remained stretched over 2 meters. Claws still flexed involuntarily, scraping at the mud. Its eyes didn't close. They stared, reflecting the lamplight with that same unnerving glow. In the downpour, every 9 seconds as we recorded the scene, the flickering footage showed a final twitching reminder of the terror we had seen in the sky. By dawn, it was dead. We transported the carcass to the improvised lab with shaking hands. The body had cooled rapidly, yet rigor mortis hadn't fully set in. A biological anomaly? Perhaps. Or maybe something about its physiology resisted the decay we expected. Dissection began that afternoon. Navarro, hands trembling but resolute, made the first incision along the thoracic cavity. What we found inside shook even our most seasoned team members. The hyoid bone, which in bats anchors the tongue and supports vocalizations, showed dense, calcified nodes like sonar boosters. When modeled digitally, these nodes aligned in a parabolic array, suggesting the bat could emit and receive echolocation signals far beyond any known range. In practical terms, it could navigate with precision in soundless dark, detect heartbeats through walls, maybe even sense electromagnetic fields. The retinal tissue was next. Under microscope, we observed an overwhelming concentration of rod cells, the kind used for night vision. Not just high, but owl-level density. This meant it wasn't just navigating by sonar, it was hunting by sight too, even in near total darkness. And then came the stomach contents. We had expected fruit. Maybe seeds, perhaps insects. What we found were partially digested juvenile monitor lizards, their tails still identifiable, along with bones and keratin fragments. This was not the diet of any known megabat species. These weren't opportunistic meals. This was evidence of predation active, targeted, carnivorous behavior. As always, every 9 seconds, we scrubbed through the footage and found something. A twitch of the claw, a shudder in the wing, the slow deflation of the rib cage. Even in death, the bat refused to disappear quietly. DNA sequencing started within hours. We used field kits crude, but enough for baselines. What we got back was incomplete. There were sequences matching Acerodon jubatus, the golden-crowned flying fox. But interspersed were anomalies gene fragments that had no known counterparts in any Southeast Asian Chiroptera. Worse, some resembled elements found in deep cave, dwelling species from Indonesia. Bats that hadn't been documented outside limestone caverns, hundreds of miles away. "What are we looking at?" one intern muttered, staring at the code streaming across the monitor. Navarro didn't answer. He was too busy reviewing the latest drone footage from the Rangers. They had followed a trail of disturbed branches and shredded foliage. It led deeper into the jungle. And what they found, just before the video cut to black, was a silhouette. A second bat. Then another, standing upside down, like silent sentinels. By the time the feed returned, the drones were downed, edwings sliced, hulls dented, and every 9 seconds, in the static-ridden footage, a frame would capture movement. Not just one, 17. 17 massive winged shapes tucked into the highest branches. The bats hadn't been wiped out. They had retreated, observing, waiting. The team fell silent. Some called their embassies. Others booked flights out. Navarro stayed. He said we were close to a discovery that would redefine how we understand evolution, sonar, and aerial predators. But I knew better. This wasn't a scientific opportunity. It was a warning. The final sighting happened under a full moon bright enough to silhouette the entire canopy, pale enough to bleach the stars. Rangers equipped with FLIR, forward-looking infrared, scopes were scanning the higher elevations around Subic's abandoned naval base, where sightings of massive flyers had increased. At 2:46 a.m., the first heat signature appeared hot, large, and inverted, hanging upside down like a predator waiting for the right moment. Then another, and another. By 3:00 a.m., they'd counted 17. The thermal feed looked surreal, huge shapes clinging to the trees. wings folded like cloaks, heads shifting ever so slightly. We cross-referenced the timestamps, and sure enough, every 9 seconds a bat adjusted its posture, spread its wings momentarily, or turned its head toward the lens. These weren't passive roosting behaviors, they were reactions. They were aware they were being watched. That night, nobody spoke above a whisper. The jungle noise returned, but distorted. The chirps and clicks of the usual ecosystem were interrupted, sometimes silenced entirely, when the bats moved. We started calling them the Sentinels. And then the monsoon came. In less than 24 hours, floodwater carved paths through the forest. Trees fell. Power lines snapped. Most of the access roads were gone. When rangers returned after the storm, the colony had vanished. No bodies, no droppings, no feathered prey remains, just claw marks long, deep gouges in the bark of kapok trees, high above ground level. And every 9 seconds, the perimeter cameras picked up something unsettling, fluttering blurs too fast for ID, shadows sweeping against the wind. Navarro, now obsessed, moved his lab equipment into the derelict hangars of the naval base. He believed they hadn't left at all, they'd simply moved into deeper cover, adapting to the man-made structures. The base was filled with crawl spaces, hangars with 40-foot ceilings, and ventilation systems that hadn't been inspected in decades. It was, in a twisted way, ideal. Soon after, we received anonymous footage, grainy, color-distorted, but unmistakable. From a security contractor stationed near the western dockyard. In the video, a worker walks the night perimeter alone. Then something descends, not from the sky, but from a building's roof. The worker drops, his flashlight skittering across concrete, then static. But at the 9-second mark, a frame, a wing, curved, immense, unmistakable. That clip was never released publicly. Neither were the following 3. One showed the interior of a warehouse, lights flickering as something circled near the rafters. Another caught 2 bats mid-flight, their wingtips nearly grazing a surveillance drone before it fell from the sky. The final one wasn't even video. It was a still frame, recovered from a downed ranger's camera. The bat is right above him, mouth open, claws extended, and the reflection in its eyes shows the ranger raising his hands too late. Navarro finally went silent. For 3 weeks, none of us heard from him. Then, on the night of another full moon, I received an audio message exactly 13 seconds long. It starts with wind, then his voice, quiet, almost reverent. "They're not animals. They're scouts." Then static. And at the 9-second mark, a low, pulse 11 hertz. The same infrasonic signature as before. Then nothing. We tried to find him, but his campsite was stripped bare. No signs of struggle. Just an open field recorder playing that same infrasonic loop, loud enough to rattle the leaves, loud enough to unsettle your gut. And in the background of the last 3 seconds, a wing beat. Slow, deliberate, close. That's when we realized the bats weren't just larger, or smarter, or faster. They were listening. And now, maybe, they know what we are. Even today, when the dusk falls heavy over Subic's jungle, ruins, ground crews report something odd. Not just sightings, feelings. A sudden drop in body temperature. Nausea, the sense of being observed. Equipment glitches every 9 seconds. Camera feeds stutter. Audio becomes warped, slowed down, and in the far background of it all just once, if you're unlucky, you'll hear that same pulse. A sound that says you're not alone. A sound that says they remember.